Welcome to the Higher Ed Huddle, where we discuss the most relevant topics in higher ed today. I'm your host, Joe Traino, and I'm joined by my co-host, Brian Hadley, as we kick off a three-part series focused on AI in higher education. We're having three different guest perspectives: a student, faculty, and CIO, Chief Information Officer. Today, our guest is Steve Zuromski, who is the CIO and VP of IT at Bridgewater State University. Thanks for joining us today, Steve. How are you?
Doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me.
We're excited to certainly have you and talk about a hot topic these days, artificial intelligence. And to get started, it would be helpful to get a little background on who you are and what you do. So why don't we start there, Steve?
Sure, sounds good. So again, I'm Steve Zuromski. I'm the Vice President of IT and CIO at Bridgewater State University. We are located in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, which is about 40 miles south of Boston. We're the 10th largest four-year college or university in Massachusetts. That's both public and private, about 9,600 students or so. It's really, as far as I go, as a CIO, I'm responsible for really all areas of IT. Your typical technology infrastructure side falls under me. Our ERP, our enterprise resource planning tool, and student information system is a big part of what we do here. Data warehouse, all of our reporting applications, classroom media technology. We even have our own internal project management office within the IT division here to help enable and advance projects across the institution, also outside of IT as well. And of course, cyber is a big component of what I'm responsible here for. So really runs the gamut, Joe.
Thanks.
Well, thanks, Stephen. Thanks for jumping on with us today. I'm curious if you can share, like Joe said, we're here to talk about this hot topic of AI. Share a little bit, if you can, about what your experience has been so far on campus with AI at Bridgewater.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So I would say we've had some mixed experiences overall. We've had, as you can imagine, some faculty, librarians, and administrators that are all in. They're excited about it. They understand the potential. They're excited to kind of get their feet wet in this and get their hands dirty, so to speak. And then, we also have the other end of the spectrum where we have folks that are a little bit more reserved and, that they're not sure what to make of this yet. And they're concerned. And I think that some of those concerns are legitimate. They're worried about, privacy and this big brother looking here. And so I think you got a little bit of both sides. But then again, what I also see, which is, I think is promising, is you got a lot of folks that are accepting of AI and want to learn more and how to safely and ethically use AI to help with advancing teaching and learning, but also help making us all work more efficiently and more effectively. So it's mixed. We also have, we're starting to approach this a couple of different ways, actually. And some of it's really growing organically, which I'm honestly very pleased to see. We have a couple of different groups on our campus that are starting to explore AI. So just a couple examples for you. So one, our president has charged me and one other individual within our academic affairs division to lead a cross-divisional committee on artificial intelligence, really just to look at what are the use cases that are out there? How can we use it to improve the student experience? How can we use it to work more smarter and not harder? So we're looking at policy, we're looking at professional development, we're looking at all these different use cases. And so that's happening at the institutional level. But what we also have is smaller groups working divisionally focused on exploring AI. So in our academic affairs division, we have faculty and we have librarians that are looking at AI and how does this impact the teaching and learning environment here at the institution? What concerns do we have to be aware of? Do we want to embrace it? Do we want to be scared of it? So it kind of, like I said, it takes different perspectives on it. I've actually launched a divisional within my IT division group on AI that's really looking at more of the technical aspects of AI. So kind of really digging into what the different capabilities that are out there and really to use that info to help us cast a short and a long-term vision on how we're going to embrace AI at the institution.
That's really cool. I'm happy to hear that you have some initiatives that sound exciting. I'm curious, where do you see the value in AI, not just across your institution, but in higher education, generally speaking? And then on the flip side, what are some of the challenges that you see?
Well, I think some of the common ones that you're hearing out there, for me anyway, my personal opinion on this, if you were to look at this from as far as, is this a game changer on a level 1? It's not a game changer, or a level 10. Like, this is a real game changer. I'm a 10, right? And that's obviously probably part of my role is what I do for a living. But I really do believe that, and we've seen examples of that already, where we've been able to use AI within our institution to help with expediting some things that would have taken us hours to do. And we've been able to do it much, much quicker and more efficiently, and frankly, even accurately. Now, that's not the case for everything yet. This is all relatively new in the grand scheme of things, at least as far as generative AI goes, right? But, overall, I think it's a game changer here. As far as value goes, there's a lot of repetitive tasks that we have to do in public higher ed. Take a look at, when you look at reviewing applications, thousands and thousands of applications get received and have to get reviewed, right? And that's a lot of manual work to be able to go through that as humans, that's challenging for us, right? We're not necessarily designed to be able to process large amounts of information very quickly, but machine learning and AI can do that very, very quickly. So, we got a lot of opportunity here, I think, to really embrace AI, but we got to do it ethically, right? And so we know AI is obviously based off of at least generative AI right now. A lot of the large language models that are out there they're all based off of existing data that exists, and there's a lot of inequities that exist naturally out there. And so, we need to educate people and make sure that we all understand this is a technology that it's not going to go away, right? We know that it's not going away. Everyone's going to be expected to use AI, but how do we do so in a ethical manner, in a safe manner, to not expose the institution and our students and our people to any unwanted risks? So, overall, Joe, I really, we're excited about it here. I can tell you our president is excited about it, about the capabilities of it, and how we'll be able to leverage this technology again to really improve our overall operational effectiveness and efficiencies as an institution. But we also recognize the fact that this is scary for some folks, and we really need to make sure that we educate everyone and just have conversations about this, really, to make sure that we embrace it in the right way.
Those are really good thoughts, Steve. You mentioned the support of the president and this committee comprised of you and someone on the academic side is kind of leading the charge. What about faculty? What is your experience with faculty across the institution regarding AI? Are they embracing it? Are they thinking about ways to use it in their classrooms? What are your thoughts?
Good question. Yeah, they absolutely are. They're very much aware of it. I think you're going to have, we definitely have mixed emotions and feelings on whether it's something that should be embraced and this is a good thing, or if this is something that's scary. So we have a little bit of both. But again, as an institution, we realize the fact that this is something that's so important and transformational that we need to make sure that we are educating our faculty and our students, for that matter, on the responsible use of AI. I think we have some faculty that really understand the pros, the benefits. As an example, within our learning management system, right now, our vendor is incorporating the use of AI to help with generating course syllabus, right? And rubrics and scoring measures. Like, that's a tool that can help faculty that normally would take them many hours to complete. That's a time saver to them. And that's obviously just one emerging example. So I would say we have mixed emotions on it. I think faculty and librarians are starting to understand and want to learn more about it. And that's really one of the points of that divisional committee that I was talking about within academic affairs. We got a lot of chatter going on in that group, which is a good thing. We want people within our institution to be talking about this, and we want that to be fed across divisionally because I feel like in order to be successful with AI, this isn't something that can happen in a vacuum. It can't be something that's discussed in a siloed approach. You really need to be, sharing different opinions and thoughts and risks and opportunities across the institution and diversifying the opinions of the group. And that's going to help you be successful with it.
How about students, Steve? Has there been any input from what the students are saying, using, trying to do?
Yeah, well, we obviously know they're using it, right? I mean, that's a given. They know that it's out there, and so as I would say that they want to embrace it too. But what we've actually heard from some students is we want to use this as a tool, because let's face it, our students are going to be expected to know how to use AI when they enter the workforce, right? That's just going to happen. Right. So, they're curious. They want to be able to use it. I think a lot of people tend to think, well, they're just going to use it to cheat. And it's like, well, maybe you're going to have some that do that, right? I'm not saying that's not going to happen. Let's face it. But I think a lot of our students are looking at this as, how could I use this as a tool to help me learn, as an aid, as a co-pilot, as Microsoft would say, versus something that is just going to do the work for me. So I think it's, our students are definitely interested. They want to learn more. We're going to be providing resources to our students so that they, again, know how to use it responsibly and ethically. Don't take sensitive information and throw it into ChatGPT, right? But it's some of those it's that clear guidance that sometimes you just have to provide to young people and students that are out there, and even adults for that matter, just who may not know how to responsibly use the tools. So overall, I think it's been positive, but we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think the awareness and the training, it should, and like you say, it should be viewed as a tool, right? But it's just another tool that they need to be aware of and trained on how to use, like you said, ethically and responsibly. What about you specifically, Steve? Are you using AI on a daily basis, on a weekly basis to do anything?
Yeah, I'm definitely using it. I think I'm just scratching the surface overall, but I am definitely using AI. I mean, obviously, I've used, like most people, I've fired up ChatGPT probably more times than I can count at this point. But really, just to help with guiding me, like you had said, Brian, just as like a tool to say, if I'm trying to write something, even especially if it's comprehensive, get me started. I kind of already know in my mind what I kind of want to do here, but to have something like a ChatGPT kind of start me off with maybe an outline, or maybe help with an intro or something like that, that helps. Time's precious here. And if I can leverage a tool like that to help me, with my day-to-day work, and I can get to more things and spend time on the things that are, really require my attention, then that's something that should be welcomed, in my opinion. So I've definitely used it that way. I've been playing around with Bing Chat Enterprise, which is, that's Microsoft's AI-powered Copilot, just to do similar tasks of that nature. I've even done a little bit more of this is purely more of an experimental thing, but I played around with Dubscript to clone my voice, which is pretty. By the way, you didn't know this isn't actually me talking to you right now, did you? So what I've done with if you go with Dubscript, what you can actually do is you go through a training model where you read, various clips and stories or whatever the case may be, to allow the model to learn your voice. And then after it processes, you can actually feed it text and it'll respond back in your voice. So just to kind of, it's pretty powerful and it's kind of scary at the same time, but I actually use that within a demo to show people, like, look, this is actually the power of what this AI technology can actually do. I mean, everyone's heard of a chatbot. Yeah, that's only one sliver of what we can do right now, when we're just on the cusp of being able to do so much more as we start to get our hands together with this. So, overall, I think it's going pretty well here. Actually, even outside of my own use case within my division, we've used it to help with a lot of our work. So one of the example that we just had was we had to deploy a software package to a select number of machines, and it wasn't a typical install that might be able to just be easily deployed remotely. It was actually something that needed some manual intervention, and normally that would take several hours to do. Right, lots of hand holding, physically having to be there in person. And so one of our technicians went to Bing Chat Enterprise, their chatbot, and said, "This is, obviously I'm paraphrasing the prompt here, but this is what I'm looking to do. Give me some ideas on how I can accomplish it." And it responded back with the answer, and it even provided the script. It wrote the script to be able to deploy the package, and it saved us hours of time. Right. And so, that would have taken him a while to do all the research, to write the script, to deploy it, to test it. That's the game changer aspect of this that I think we're just really scratching the surface on.
I love that. I love it. So my mind goes, so if you can use Bing Enterprise to write scripts and use it again ethically and responsibly, there are others out there who can use it maliciously also, right? What do we do about that?
Yeah, well, like any good technology, there's going to be use cases where people are going to use it nefariously, right? And so I think that's where we have to lean on a couple different things. Like one, we need to lean on these AI developers to make sure that their engines and their models can't be used, or at least try to put some boundaries on how they can be used. Or not be used, rather, from an ethical standpoint. You shouldn't be able to, and there's already been improvements on this already, right? But you shouldn't be able to go to an AI chatbot, a public AI bot like that, and be able to write phishing emails or, other types of social engineering messages like that. So I think some of this stuff is going to be it's going to take time in order to put some boundaries and wrappers around it. But I think the other big aspect of this is, despite those efforts, people are still going to continue to use it nefariously, and we're going to have to really hunker down and educate our users on these are what the capabilities that are out there, right? You used to rely on, let's go to phishing for an example. You used to be able to rely on a key training element for users on phishing messages was to look for that broken English, look for that poorly written message. Like that's usually an immediate red flag. Well, with generative AI, that's not necessarily the case anymore, right? Because they're very articulately written, they're clear, there's no misspellings, and it's a lot harder. So it really comes down to, I think, the training aspect as well to help us here.
So training obviously is a big ticket item here, Steve. Training and awareness. What else do you think that higher ed institutions need to do to prepare themselves for this really AI revolution? What do they need to do to even get started?
Well, I think first, even back it up a little further, embrace it. You got to embrace it. It's not going away. If you don't embrace it, if you choose to just kind of ignore, you will get passed. Right, it's going to be a competitive advantage for others. If you don't do it, you'll be left behind. There's no doubt about it. So I think once you've come to the institutions have come to the realization that this is something that we really need to pay attention to, and I do think a lot of them have, you need to educate yourselves on it, like we just talked about. What are the capabilities? We're just starting to scratch the surface on Gen AI, right? Obviously, artificial intelligence as a whole has been out for decades now, right? That's we're not debating that. Gen AI, though, it's really 2023 is really when it came out. So we've come a long way in the last year as far as Gen AI goes, and we're on the brink of general artificial intelligence, which is the formation of new knowledge. So I think people really need to just educate themselves on what this whole AI thing is. How can we use it to our advantage to achieve our institutional, organizational mission and goals? And I would say it's not just the responsibility, this is obviously just my opinion, but it's not the responsibility of the CIO alone to lead the AI charge of an organization. It needs to be cross-divisional. It needs to be cross-departmental. You have to have buy-in from different constituent groups if you're going to unleash the capabilities and the full power of AI within your organization. And you need that collective input to establish some short-term and some long-term strategies. So I think, to that point even, organizations need to step back and ask themselves, once they form those groups, what are your goals with AI? What do you actually even want it to be able to do for you? And actually document those and list those out so that everyone is on the same playing field. What are your use cases? Because every organization is a little bit different, right? Sure, you're going to have the productivity suite apps and things that you can use, but every vendor out there, I feel like under the sun, is trying to figure out, how do I incorporate AI into my product or service? So you're going to have some real niche examples there of how AI can help you. You need to start to document what are those use cases, and how do you want to use AI to help you advance your institutional, organizational mission, vision, and goals. And then, I think another thing, I'd say this is really more foundational than anything, is obviously AI is nothing without data. Organizations need to get their hands around their data, right? You have to get your arms around it. Where is it going to live? And how are you going to protect it? You need to properly permission off your data so the AI is querying data under the right context, right? So that it can help you. You don't want a student to be able to go ask a question and have sensitive HR data be handed out as a silly example. But I think you get the idea. So again, for me, it really just comes down to take a stance, educate yourselves on the capabilities of the technology, form a group within your organization to talk about this, talk about the capabilities. Identify what your goals are, what your use cases are, and then start to get your hands around the data and start to deploy.
Steve, I think those are really good considerations on what's going on. And like all of us, certainly are just scratching the surface. We really appreciated having you on today. Wanted to, just thank you again. Loved hearing about the initiatives at Bridgewater. It's pretty cool to see you and the leadership really embracing AI, and for sharing your considerations that institutions should look at if they're interested in getting started. So thank you again.
No, I appreciate it, Joe. Thanks for having me, and great talking with both of you.
Brian, thanks for joining me, and Steve. You can find our podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, Google, and Apple. Check back next month for another great topic and great guest. Until then, stay well.